Hey there, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Bulls versus Bears, 100th episode, gentlemen. JT, Kai, we thought we'd have all three of us on, considering we've all been part of the 100-episode journey. As you can see, I've taken time off the yacht. I've got Starlink on it now, so I've been managed to just head down below deck to join you blokes for the 100th episode. But welcome to the viewers and everyone. Welcome, boys.
Yeah, nice one, and nice to see that Starlink's actually working. I did a bit of camping over the holidays, and you can actually, one of the guys pointed out that when there's 3 satellites in a row, that's actually the Starlink satellites. So I'm like, okay, well, I can actually get internet out here in where it wasn't before. So, yeah, Elon, he knows what he's doing.
He certainly does. I had to do the call on Tuesday, and let me tell you, country broadband, not so great. I think I look like I was. I was dialing in from about 1998. It was pretty grainy and pretty horrible. So yeah, and I think we've all had the call this week, have we not?
Yeah, I went in on Monday, so first one of the year. It was good. They made it super simple, all blue chip stocks, so pretty much can just riff from top of the head. They're all pretty well known, so yeah. And I was, and when I was talking about Coles and Woolies, because I was talking about the how I had experience with the wholesaling and stuff. One of the viewers actually wrote in, is like, "Oh,
right.
I didn't know you did this stuff." Yeah, it's quite interesting.
one of many of Kai's side hustles.
Yes.
He's the king of the side hustle. But yeah, so I thought it was a funny story. I've been out Western New South Wales. I've visited a few clients and things. I've been out as far as Coonabarabran, and I went Merriwar and saw one of our favourite clients, Jackie, who I'm sure is listening, and Jamie. Shout out to those guys, and on the Liverpool plains, and then went north, Kingscliff, and I'll be back in Sydney next week. So I'm certainly not doing anything for global warming, but because I've done plenty of Ks in the car. But it's. Well, I said to people, I think it'll be a pretty volatile year this year. Maybe some geopolitical issues. Didn't really expect for that to happen 3 hours after I said it on the 3rd of January.
Yeah.
So it was sitting there, just at the dinner table, flicking, and I just thought, I better just check in on work, and I went, what the hell? So flick through those slides there, Kai, and we'll.
Sure.
Yeah, well, Venezuela obviously was the big deal, and as far as country takeovers go, it's pretty non-eventful. Only a hell of a lot cheaper and more efficient than, say, Iraq and Afghanistan. But markets, look, you sort of see broadly positive on it overall. So and I think Jensen's his keynote at the Tech Nerd convention, the CES, I think gave it a bit of a push, and the memory stocks particularly. Aussie sort of struggled a bit, but which I'm surprised. Like, commodities are going well everywhere in the world, and we seem to just struggle to head higher. So I think even iron ore's at a decent price. So
yeah. So just on this, guys. Last time you did a big roadshow through the country, we ended up buying a few. Let's say country stocks. Are we going to do the same thing this time?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not. No, look, country tech's fine. I'm still pretty blown away by... What I was blown away by was that a few of them were really actively using ChatGPT in their business and things like that. So they've adopted... farmers adopt tech a lot more now. I don't know whether it's because they spend a lot of time on their own in a tractor. But I think the grain prices are super low, but they've had 4 or 5 record seasons in a row, but they're all sort of feeding it back into livestock. But no, there's no real. I think cattle prices are at record highs or very close to big so something like Elders would do fairly well, but I still think, that John Deere play, I think still valid, and I think that's done well in the last year. But yeah, people are making money out there, but it just doesn't ever flow through to the stocks here in Oz. So I think maybe that Australian ag, because they're land banking. I think land's doing pretty well from what I can gather. But
well, I haven't looked at the chart.
Too much stress.
Yeah, haven't looked at the chart, but I did see a headline that the Queensland floods had affected AACO. So I have to check on that. But it didn't read well.
Well, that's the problem. Is you can have three states having a gala and one state drags it down, and particularly on the ASX, you've got to have like the smallest thing go wrong, and all of a sudden you're down 30%. So So, but look, I was pretty impressed with everyone, farmers really utilising the tech and utilising, the data that was available to do all sorts of things. One fella had it on a voice recognition, and he just talks to it like he talks to, and the voice recognition pickup was incredible. It adapted really, really well, and it was conversational. So, it's and I'd never seen. We always type when we use it, so pretty interesting. But look, markets wise, I guess pretty flat week. But considering we started off with a invasion of Venezuela, it's probably a pretty good result.
Yeah.
Hang on, so
what do you guys think about that? Like, I was reading it on the weekend, and I was like, oh wow, it was quite a successful, I'd say, operation from Trump. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how the market's reacted, where it's basically done nothing. Because the ramifications are pretty long term, right? Because they even, obviously they have a lot more control over the Venezuelan gas. They do have the biggest reserve. So I think they have about 300 billion barrels, and Saudi has about 250 billion. So they are the biggest reserve in the world, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, we'll get to it in a few slides later, because I've got a few there that, because I sort of started digging away on it while I was, there's the joy of being able to research, with AI now. It's possible on your phone, because I haven't really had too much, computer access. But just flick the next slide, Kai. We'll just go through the heat maps for the week. The banks really dragged us down early. But that lithium, the critical minerals thing, and copper being one of them, and pretty scattered here. But I think those banks were down much worse than that earlier in the week. I think that's been holding it back a little bit. So I think I had Bendigo Bank and Westpac maybe on the call. They still looked expensive, despite the fact they've pulled back. And then maybe obviously the lithium stocks did pretty well. I think there was a small announcement in Block, and it's fairly standard. But flick through to the next one, and we'll. Yeah,
I was just going to say, that massive spike, that was Linus, right? I'm assuming that.
Yeah, well, like I said, critical minerals thing. I think just locked down. Everyone's trying to lock things down now, and strangely enough, we're a little shop, but we're always available. So I've had Sydney Morning Herald and Reuters call for comments this week, and Sydney Morning Herald was wanted me to comment on Rio and Glencore, possible merger talks again, and I think that's what it is that we've had free trade for decades and decades, and no real threats from tariffs or war. I think even at a company level now, they're kind of going, we want to lock down. We need to lock down critical supplies, of the minerals we need, because it's just not. We can't just shop around anymore, because who knows what happens tomorrow with Trump in power. So and there's that big call about silver, because they're going to rebalance the Bloomberg CRB. There's a lot of people talking about that, but it's apparently why silver peeled off. They've got to maintain certain percentages in this index, which is one of the backbones of one of the major commodity indexes in the world. And because silver, platinum, and gold have done so well, they've actually got to sell quite a few futures and rebalance sometime in the next week. So it involves basically getting rid of half of their silver position. So that might, but silver's been incredibly volatile. Have you boys been watching that over the break? Like,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
like
out of control.
10,
5%.
15%. Yeah, it just
Oh yeah,
moves.
5%'s nothing. Like it, yeah, but it got up to 82 and a bit, and yeah, there was definitely some cheers on about the 30th. There's a couple of our strategies doing very, very well. So, and then Drone Shield as well. Did you see it's back up above $4?
Yeah, $4.
$4. Yeah, that's a massive move.
So, yeah,
And that's
so
on the back
everyone-
of I think Trump's also announced 1.5 trillion in defense spending as well. So yeah, it's just
Yep.
the trickle down effect.
Well, yeah, what is it, the 9th of January, the outlook's looking pretty good so far. We've got critical minerals defence in there as two of the major themes. So, yeah, I might have to can't be ticking things off too quickly. Although, with Trump, taking control of the Venezuelan oil pipeline, 15 to $17 trillion worth of oil, that can go a long way to paying off some debt. So yeah, I don't really, and a massive gold reserve as well. But just have a look at the. We'll flick to the next slide with the. That was the wrong one, but but it doesn't matter. Leave it there. But that was I did New Year's Eve for SBS, and so I had to do these graphics. I thought they were pretty good. But the miners are up 30%. Gold miners were up. Oh, I can't read that, but it's 140.
121.
Yeah. Banks were only 11, and healthcare and tech. But when we did this last year, energy and miners were the losers on that occasion. So maybe healthcare or tech might make a bit of a bounce back this year. I'm pretty out of favour. But 10.3 including dividends, I think 6.7 and without dividends. So, and I think Drone Shield was the best performing stock for the year, and that 4DX, and then. I think James Hardie and Telix might have been the bottom two, something like that. So, and then go through the the US heat maps. The next slide, a bit of heat coming out of the chip stocks and kind of a bit going back into the like SanDisk and stuff like that. Kai, those guys,
Yeah.
the cybersecurity stocks have done well this week.
Yeah, I think it's just continuation of the same thing, right? Like with the hard disk space and RAM, you've got SanDisk, you've got Micron, you've got Western Digital. These guys just keep pumping, and it's a supply issue, right? So they can't keep up with the demand in terms of storage and RAM. So so I think it's just going to continue for a bit. I don't think it's going to last forever. Obviously, this is fundamentally driven because of supply, but at some point it will correct. But that issue hasn't resolved yet.
And that's because the large language models just can't get any smaller, basically, isn't it? Like you have to store it somewhere.
I think it's just increasing the amount of data that needs to be stored, right? Because you think about how much these language models output they produce, how much they need to store for all these retrieval models. I think just naturally goes up by usage. But if you think about the technology behind storage, it really hasn't changed much over the last 5-10 years, right? So I think it requires probably something a bit of upgrade in terms of storage technology as well. Obviously they will eventually resolve this supply issue at some point. If the prices of these hard disks go too high, you'll see a drop in demand. But yeah, I think it is fundamental, and it's probably short to medium term. But at some point it'll come down. It's at pretty ridiculous prices.
That Tesla fell away a little bit this week. Jensen announced an open source platform for the self-driving NVIDIA's going to have. So basically the rest of the world will have an open source FSD environment that they can add their data to and stuff, which makes, I think, Tesla's edge a little bit, at the moment they're leading by light years. Maybe now they just lead by just less than light years, because I still don't think the Tesla's still got a fleet uploading billions of miles of every Tesla in the world every day. But And I think Uber announced or launched like pictures of their new driverless cab as well this week. So I think that's why Tesla's dropped a little bit as well. So I haven't seen anything for Apple, but the bit of heat taken out. But I think the next one. I mean, we're going to change the format up a little bit. I mean, we'll obviously talk about commodities in a bit, and we've sort of broadly spoken about them, to be honest. But going to try and focus a little bit, skip through this news bit, and as you know, in the first 15 minutes, and then have a bit of a focus topic most weeks. So, I mean, look, platinum and silver and those things. I was going to do bar charts all the way back to the last episode, but when I did it, the platinum and silver bars were so big that you just couldn't see any of the other numbers. So I just stuck to the normal. But you know, we would be up like 20 or 30% in both of those at least. And then crude's had an okay week despite, and I'll sort of explain a little bit, because that Venezuelan, whilst there's a lot of reserves, a lot of it is this heavy crude, and which is apparently the consistency of like honey or molasses, and won't even flow through tubes, really. So, well, not effectively. So really, people have started to realise with that Venezuela thing that, you know, the cost of processing and things, it's just not, they're not going to flood the market in anytime soon. It'll be more 2 years down the line. And Trump's apparently still got to convince these guys to go back into Venezuela, because 20 years ago they all had their assets confiscated. So American Airlines, ConocoPhillips, Exxon, Chevron, they all had hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stuff they had to abandon, so they just got kicked out of the country. So it'd be an interesting interesting conversation to convince them to go back in. But Halliburton will be the winner there, I'm sure. They seem to be always. But you want to flick to the next one, Kai? That was the commodities for the year. Team Silver, yes.
Clear winner there. Like 155 versus 65 for gold. Jeez, that's a hell of a move.
And these were till New Year's Eve. So close of business New Year's Eve. So yeah, and even copper at 43. Copper doesn't rally like silver and platinum. That's I actually think that's the best rally out of all. Well, not silver. I'm not going to say silver's still my friend, but like that's probably 3 or 4 times the equivalent of what silver can do. You know, it's a pretty impressive and rally for copper for sure. And I think it keeps just making fresh highs all the time, and people keep scrambling to lock it down. So, and then as evident with the Glencore Rio thing, they're trying to be a copper powerhouse and massive trading desk and things like that. And iron ore that's what's holding back our big miners here. Only up at 1%, but
but funny enough, actually, well, BHP's actually done pretty well in the last couple of months. It's at like $47. So
yeah,
back up.
Well, 52-week highs. And, well, copper above $6 is like, I think that it's starting to get into the realms of being more revenue attributable than iron ore. So then, I mean, if iron ore goes, my lord, the materials sector could have an enormous year. So yeah, it's hard. I didn't put uranium and stuff on there because it's just too hard. Like, you can only really do the ETF. It's not really a pure commodity price. They were the main ones, but yeah, we'll have a look. Flick to the next one, and Team Gold's still doing well. So this is why I just did this earlier in the week. So one of the reasons, he says it's about drugs, but it's not about drugs. It's about the fact that they're 200 kilometres away, and they've got a fair bit of heavy crude, and I think one of the world's biggest discovered gold deposit or something stupid. But yeah, Marathon Oil.
And don't forget they've got a massive coltan deposit as well, which is kind of like a cobalt sort of equivalent as well.
Okay.
So so they got plenty there. But yeah, so some of the energy analysts that I do follow, they signaled this a long, long time ago, and they weren't speculating. They were just saying, have a look at the fleet of ships that are actually in the just off the coast of Venezuela. Like you don't send that amount of sort of military hardware just to stop a few narco terrorists. And I remember it was maybe about a month ago, and I'll just have to use like an NFL or a football analogy. Like they basically said, oh, they're sending in these special carriers that all they do is just drop off the special forces troops on shore. And they were saying, okay, you got your air tankers there, aircraft carriers, you got your battleships. But when they were getting excited about those actual, I don't know what the name of those ships were, but all they do is that one specific task. They're like, yeah, USA is going to go hit the ground fairly soon. And yeah, they were absolutely right. And obviously there's YouTube channels that all they do is follow the US military around and say, hey, look at that ship, look at that ship, look at that. This is what that ship does. And that's all they did. And so I know, Trump's saying, yeah, we're here to stop the criminals. But we all know what natural resources that Venezuela has there. And
I'm going to say, though, he's been refreshingly honest. Like, he's like, I mean, Tony Blair and George W. Bush are still lying about why they went into Iraq like 15 years ago. Like,
well, didn't we have that laugh when? Didn't we have that laugh when someone asked him about, oh, well, what are you going to do with that tanker that you took? And he's like, well, looks like we're going to keep it.
What else are we going to do with it? It's like, and look, 15 people. There was 15 casualties. It is very close to them. And there was a Chinese envoy that left 3 hours before. So that's why I put there, think Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, that's a major historical event, and that was just that was Russia putting missiles into Cuba, which is not that not that much closer. But yeah, the main beneficiaries, if they are going to start moving some of that oil, the Marathon has three of the top 5 heavy crude processing, and apparently it's really difficult. It basically costs $13 a barrel extra to do one of these or something like that.
But it's interesting, right? Because I was reading about it and why US actually still imports a lot of heavy crude because they have a lot of light sweet from all the shale fracking, right? So actually the missing part of it in the refinery process is actually the heavy crude. So
yeah, right.
So I was actually quite surprised because I know that the US production of oil in general is very, very high. But it's like that missing component. Maybe that's why he put a bit more importance on taking Venezuela, right? So
I tell you what, I mean, the amount of things Trump has made us learn in the last 12 months alone is frightening. Like, I'm just like, I reckon if we did a trivia night, we'd be about 50% better than what we were last year because the crap that we've had to learn about the most random topics. And then, I mean, it's only the 9th. He's already shifted on to buying Denmark, or buying Greenland, for Denmark. Like, it's just, he's, and that's, you raised a really good point, JT, on the company chat. It's like, well, I mean, Venezuela's done, who's next? And I started looking into it, and that was the overwhelming question in the media. And there wasn't, I mean, have you guys seen any major? There's been no major backlash about this, right? Like, there's no one's caught. I think everyone's just given up.
China's said a few things. I mean, like they've invested.
Yeah, because Venezuela owes them an absolute crap ton of money. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah. So they in their mind they bought the oil, and USA's just no, it's ours now.
Yes.
And as I said, I'm like you have to worry. I mean, like if you look down. All of the governments in South America. I mean, like Brazil's their next target. Argentina's on the American side. Chile's on the American side. Or I mean, like they have governments there that are friendly to the US. Brazil's just the only one. But the thing is, they're not politically stable either at the moment. So it's a matter of are they going to just interfere with another election over there and put a friendly. But they basically said, and it's the not the Monroe doctrine. It's the Donroe now. They said South America's ours, and they just said to Russia and
I
China,
remember, JT, we were talking about this before, right? And I was like, I think him going into South America from a geopolitical standpoint is actually the smartest thing you can do, right? Because there's no net gain in Ukraine. Like, what are you going to do, right? Because at the end game basically is nuclear. You know, Russia has nukes. You go into Asia, China has nukes. Like, it's really difficult to actually for them to gain any position. Like South America, like there's no resistance. You know, they've got no military. So
yeah,
you know, all people do is put their hands up and say this is illegal. But like, who's going to enforce it? No one.
Yeah, as long as the Russians aren't giving them rocket launchers like they did in Afghanistan. And but yeah, I mean, look, it just the tinfoil hat brigade I've noticed on Twitter was like, you know, the big summit between them and Donald and China and Russia was just basically the three of them are just divvying up the world. Which I mean, you know, I think I'm sure that stuff goes on.
Yeah, but you know, I think the more interesting question is like Greenland, right? Because he's hell bent on taking Greenland, whether through a purchase or through force. I don't think they're going to use force. Like Rubio has ruled out force, and it doesn't really make sense, right? But I think even if he doesn't go through with it, it's caused a lot of distrust in NATO. So I actually, like, I was on the call, and I was saying basically like the European stocks, defense stocks is, you know, from a medium term perspective, like Europe has to arm itself, right? Otherwise it's got no backing, because that distrust it's caused is basically saying if you have a political leader in the US that's aligned with you, Europe's got nothing. They can't enforce anything, right? So the logical sense is basically, I think everyone realizes this now. The UK, Germany, France, they all realize this. They have to spend more on defense. It's, you know, even if Trump goes away in a couple of years' time, that threat's still in the background. So
yeah,
apparently he mentioned RTX, which is one of our faves, on Mr. Trump,
and let's not forget, this is actually a big flex from the US as well, because apparently, you know, China had, you know, helped Venezuela set up some defense on some of their perimeters, and the USA just sliced through it like a knife through butter.
Yeah,
grabbed their leader.
Dome.
Yeah. But
it was Russian gear.
Well, either way, whatever that gear was, it didn't work. They just got in there, and as I said, look, that was a surprising thing for me, because, like, you know, they announced USA is coming in, and it was like hours later, oh yeah, we got the president, and you're like, what? That's a fairly quick operation.
He's already back in New York.
Yeah.
Flick to the next one, Kai, and we'll So that's Venezuela's the largest Latin gold reserves in Latin America. I've seen some stats saying it's bigger than all of Africa combined, but categorically it's not. I don't know who came up with that stat. It was on that Jack Ryan thing that's going viral on the internet at the moment, where he talks about, but they don't have that much. They are the biggest in Latin America. And I think, but the biggest in Andorra, I think, had 171. Because there was another chart I used for the morning report, and then obviously, oil reserves there, Venezuela obviously being the biggest. So, and you know, that's sort of, for a small country, there's a lot of resources. So, there's kind of sort of a little bit of context there. But flick through to the next one, mate, and we'll just keep it.
The
scorecard. We're gonna put a scorecard on, because there's been talk about between us as well. But we at the Fear and Greed Index, I've accidentally left the old one. It's about 46. We couldn't be more neutral at the moment. But one thing before we get to bullish and bearish, what's your favourite theme this year, boys? In terms of which, and you know, you can be as speculative as you want. We've got our core themes through the outlook and things. But what's your gut feel specky, and then what's your sure thing? JT, you want to go first, or Kai, or whoever?
Yeah, I'll go first. So it's no surprise that I've been fairly still bullish about the markets, and what I will continue to do is just keep an eye on the ETF inflows. If the ETF inflows, keep churning in, I see very little chance that this market actually corrects. We might see a small 5-10% correction, but I think whatever dip gets bought, whatever dip does happen, gets bought, and I think that's the thematic for me for this year. My surest thing, I don't really have a sure thing at this stage, but yeah, that I just want to highlight that the inflows is what I'm keeping an eye on.
I think the surest thing is expect the unexpected. It's just, you have to be agile. I think that there is one big thing that I've been looking at. It's not just SpaceX and OpenAI this year. They reckon that there could be Anthropic. There could be there is a bunch of $500 billion to $1.5 trillion IPOs going through this year. Mm-hmm. And I reckon where the only place they're going to get that money is with their Mag 7 profits. If you're and then obviously they may come into them, and you're bringing probably massive businesses into the index that don't have anywhere near as stable balance sheets as, but super high valuations. So I think that might disrupt the indexes this year, and I think it will be a pretty good stock pickers market, rather than sort of the ETF flow. Just only because I think that if you've got a bunch of there's not too many companies that are $1 trillion, right? $500 billion's massive. If you get, say, 8 of them that are sitting there around about 600 to $1.5 trillion, the index is going to be a bit all over the shop for the US this year, which could disrupt things. My sure thing was the US dollar going down, but I didn't really think that Trump would go and take Venezuela, like this, and then the tweets he put out were pretty distasteful. He was putting, movie music or theme music to the bombs going in and all this stuff. But 2 hours after it happened, and so he clearly has no, I think he thinks this is the same as putting his name on a building. I think I reckon he's just in his head. I've got 3 years left to make my mark on history, and things could get real. Mm-hmm. But if he was to take a Greenland or what, it could be, he could solve the debt problem via acquisition.
It's an M&A play.
Well, merger and yeah, but my military merger or acquisition.
Exactly.
So it's an MMA. So, look, we sort of always said, it'll either be precious metals continue to rally their ass off and or there'll be war, but there's probably a good chance that there's both. I'm not as sure on the US dollar going down now. I just wouldn't mind seeing how many countries he tries to take over in the first 3 months of this year before I get because the maths on the debt, it's just mathematically impossible to pay it off with the policies he's got. So, I think just agility is going to be absolutely key, and everyone knows I do like critical minerals. I still think precious metals are going to. I think hard assets are just going to keep going. Uncertainty just will attract people to hard assets, and what hard asset? I mean, I didn't even know what antimony was until about September last year. So it could be there could be something I haven't even thought of yet. And then AI will just be. I think AI will rally, but it'll be different. It might say it's the memory chips, say it's automation, but I just don't think it won't be the chip. The chips sector, I think, will have a sideways year because they're all making money, but it's all priced in. What about you, Kai?
Yeah, I'm on a pretty similar thought. My Spec E1 would be. Actually, I'm not sure which one. I mean, all the three themes are like that we talked about in the outlook, right? So, I would rank the precious metal one as the most sure thing, I think it will continue going because there's a lot of themes that actually merge into that play, right? So I do think the precious metals will continue going. Now the specky ones, I like the defense theme because I just like looking at what's happening, that play for Greenland. I think Trump is serious. Like I'm not sure if he's serious about military action or anything like that, but I know he wants it and he will probably find a way, right? But I think the realization in NATO
just because it hasn't happened in the last, since World War II, like, I mean,
since the last
the US bought,
yeah,
US bought, well, the Louisiana purchase. They bought, most of America off the French. I mean, they bought Alaska off the Russians. Like,
Virgin Islands as well
did they?
Yeah. So they purchased that as well. So, I mean, the purchase play could come back, and he might be successful. I don't know. And maybe this is his way of putting pressure on them to negotiate a better price. If you don't put a cheap price, we're going to come take it over.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think that Quantum's a good specky as well, but
I mean,
like,
with the
it's
AI
one of those.
thing.
It's just one of those things that, like, just the tiniest of allocation to it, really, just in case it goes, because it's probably you sort of saying, the likelihood is like a year to 2 years kind of minimum potentially, but a breakthrough can come at any moment. So
exactly. Like it's on. I would say where Quantum's at the moment is like it's on a cusp of a breakthrough where. If it had more reliability, we could probably see like a bit more commercialization in that sector, and you get a really decent rally off that where we see the potential for commercial use, but to actually commercialize it, it's years away, right? So that one's, I think it's fairly speculative, but it doesn't mean it could go massively higher. So it could double very easily.
Yeah, we're talking about
so that one's
companies that are pre-revenue.
Yeah. pre what to do with it. I don't know what we're going to do with Quantum, but it's pretty cool.
And sorry, I just thought of my little specky field to keep an eye on is solid state batteries. So I've been following QuantumScape for a while. So apparently they had the most commercial ready technology for the solid state batteries. One of their competitors has just announced that they've actually closer to production than QuantumScape. And then there was also some announcements in late December from, I believe it was Samsung, that came out with their own solid-state battery technology as well, which contained a lot of silver. And that was, another one of those silver sort of conspiracy theories out there. So just keep an eye on that space. But, just in general, like solid-state batteries, they can recharge in minutes to fully charged, and they have a much larger range. So that could be whoever comes to commercialization first and actually has a product that shoots the lights out, is taking a big prize there. So that'll be a theme for me to watch over the next few months.
And I just looked this up while you were talking, JT. Got lithium cores. Nickel, cobalt, manganese, iron and phosphorus, graphite, silicon and tin as anodes. Oh, hang on. Lanthanum or something like that, and zirconium. There we go. There's my two new buzz metals for the year.
So the whole thing, the main difference is it's in the word is solid state. So I think it's either the cathode or anode is solid versus the current technology. So that's kind of where the bottleneck is to bring this to production.
And no rare earths.
And then there's a few large companies that are actually in play here. So obviously Samsung's no little like small startup, and if they come to market first, or QuantumScape or one of the competitors, it does change the whole EV market as well.
Yep. So it appears as though it's going to be another year where us old dogs have got to learn about 15 new tricks again. But anyway,
we're going to have to look at that period table. And there's that element I've never heard of again.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they'll come up with another one. But boys, and we'll and as I said, like going forward this year, we're going to probably do a bit of a focus topic most weeks, and as opposed to being a bit, we'll do a quick chat about the news of the week prior, but a little bit more in-depth topic based this year, and just to you can get your news from the daily pods and stuff like that, and you can catch up that way. But that's part of the reason what we were just talking about is just because there is so many, tech is moving so fast, the geopolitical environment's moving so fast, like just giving those background layers to the viewers and the listeners, so then when people are talking about the what could be the new buzz metal or the new technology or whatever, they've got that that little bit of more meaty knowledge about it, and whether it's just a fad or whether it's investable, etc. So and you'll be able to obviously some will be relevant, and then they might be relevant further in the year, but you'll be able to go back and look at those episodes, and it'll be a touch more educational in terms of that point of view, but obviously relevant for the week. But boys, happy 100th. No letter from the Queen, absolutely. I wouldn't imagine, but well, hopefully, the next 100 will we seem to have got it down pat now.
And just a question. So on the scorecard, have we decided on the rules for that yet?
We have not. It's up for debate, but I think it's got to be a bullish bearish. I don't think there can be a star system. It's binary. It's binary, not quantum.
Uh-huh.
So
okay.
We look.
What I guess all I'm asking is it like is it the Thursday night close to the Thursday?
I think it will
on
have
the
to be
SPX.
the Thursday night close on the S&P. I think you can go for bonus points if you're within 0.5% of the net change, and you only get one bonus point maybe. How about that? I don't know.
We'll have to flesh it out. But either way, what's your call for next week then?
I'm pretty neutral, but I'm bullish. I don't know what. Unless he invades Brazil and Greenland, and maybe Denmark as well. I don't know whether it can go down at the moment. So there's no one. Although there's payrolls tonight, and I think there's some inflation data. But I'd be mildly bullish. Maybe it's up 1% or so. I'm not really fairly agnostic, but it doesn't want to go down. That's for sure. What about you?
I'm going to be bullish as well. We're going to be bullish 1% on the index.
Oh wow! So 3 bulls to start the year. Then I'm bullish as well. I think, as you said, we just had a invasion of Venezuela, or whatever you want to call it, liberation of Venezuela, and the market just said, "Oh yeah, that's fine." And one thing I've also noticed is that all the bond yields are ticking higher, and the equity market's just shrugging it off as well. So yeah, I'm bullish for next week.
Apparently, the biggest ever single position in Fed funds, January Fed funds, $200 billion notional, was put on the other day, CME said. So they didn't release a lot more details on that, but the Fed meeting in January is not till 27th or something like that. So I would imagine, it'd be interesting to see what happens with payrolls tonight, but it just seems a little bit unshakable at the moment. And in thin markets as well. If it was going to go down on fear, it would have gone down this week. So, I guess we'll see. But I'll see you gentlemen back in the office on Monday, and we'll chat to everyone else next week.
All right, and thanks for listening, everybody.